It's recording?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, good morning everyone. We are extremely privileged to have with us today Dr. Roberto Musotto.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Correct.
Dr. Musotto is a new faculty with the School of Business and Law, with the Law Department. He's doing his postdoc around cybersecurity, and he had a very interesting experience with the Sicilian mafia, where Roberto is originally coming from. So Roberto has done a research on the Sicilian mafia. He was also practicing as a lawyer in Sicilia and Italy,
Yes.
protecting those people that work in those organizations. And so, as I mentioned, we're very privileged to have Roberto talk to us today about his research and his experience with the mafia from the legal point of view and from the security point of view. So, please, Roberto.
Thank you. Sure. But first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'll just start with a couple of words about myself. I was born in Sicily, and to a degree, mafia was part of my life for the first 27 years. I grew in a very poor neighborhood where the most important authority was the local boss, and he knew everyone, and I knew who this person was. I qualified through law school, and when I started practicing as a barrister in Italy, the first trials I could get clients from were actually trials related to organized crime. And when you start practicing criminal law in this kind of environment, you feel, well, there's quite a sort of pressure if you want to deliver some specific results. And the most complicated thing in my everyday job was to make them understand that I could not let them go out of prison for revealing the amount of evidence that sometimes was thousands and thousands of pages, and reports that was against reply, but try to deliver the best service and the best defense they could receive given the occasion. And in order to fund my way through the bar, I started a PhD, and I did a PhD in economics, actually, in economics of organized crime. And well, this lecture is about security, and I'd like to talk you through how it was possible historically to pierce the veil of silence. And just because no one knew anything about the mafia until 1983, and it's quite odd because we think that mafia always existed, but no one knows how it originates from or how it was created. In the 19th century, in Sicily, in the Kingdom of Naples, what police forces and government was doing was they were hiring criminals as police forces, which sounds like a ridiculous idea today, but actually in this way they could get control of this sort of underworld. And this idea actually comes from French criminal literature. In French literature, there is a character called Vidocq, who was basically this big boss of the underworld, and somehow in the Neapolitan government they thought that this could be an idea that could be exported in order to control all these banditism and groups that were forming. And there are actually three theories about the mafia. It created because of a so-called special force of police or a secret organization that stands similarly in origins as the Freemasons, for example. A second theory that is about the land reforms that were happening in the south of Italy during that period, and another one that is connected to Sicilian lemons. The price of Sicilian lemons was dropping in the last part of the 19th century in Sicily, and there was no protection against in the market for people that were producing this product and people that were buying it. So these sort of organizations stand in order to keep the price of the lemons high. And well, in my research, I've been focusing on how the internal structure looks like of the mafia. And sorry. If I could sum up both my whole research on the mafia so far, that would be the sentence. So what does the internal structure of the mafia looks like? And it is a covert network of people. And as I said, no one knew anything about it or its workings until recently. Actually, there are still today people that deny the existence of mafia in Italy. Just yesterday, the Supreme Court of Cassation refused to use the term of mafia in a mafia criminal operation, justifying it on the basis that it's about a geographical location and not a culture system, which I find quite. I'm very uneasy about justifying it. And when I trained with one of the presidents of the Supreme Court of Cassation when I was going through the bar, and historically, at least at this level, it's not just about the law, but it's also about the politics behind the interpretation of the law. That mattered quite a lot. And it was only during the Maxi Processo in July 1984 that the whole structure was reviewed. The Maxi Processo was the very first trial about mafia, and till recently it was the biggest trial ever done in the world. Now there's the one about the Progina that is much bigger. And if you ever been in Italy and go to the courthouse in Palermo, there is a big room dedicated just to the investigation of the trial. One extremely big room that contains all the acts about the trial itself, and then another room for the appeals. And it's basically about 36,000 pages, most of them handwritten by two people. It's quite impressive as a work. And we know about the structure just because one person that was in the mafia decided to talk. And he decided to talk not just because he woke up one day and decided to collaborate, but the mafia and one faction started killing his whole family, and then he decided to collaborate. It's actually a very interesting documentary on Netflix about him at the moment. And the end of this trial signs the start of a extremely odd season in Sicily, and it is actually the period where I was living, where we had killings and bombings almost every day. And to reply to this issue, Italian government decided to militarize the whole region, and mainly the town where I was living, sending about 150,000 soldiers for about 10 years. And as I do not have pictures of that period except this one, and it's me and my brother wearing a military hat because one of my uncles was actually deployed in Sicily as well. But I picked this picture for a reason. You can see the date here, 22nd of May. It's basically the eve of a very famous bombing in Sicily, where Judge Falcone was killed while coming from the airport. So it's quite significant, and it shows you actually that there was life going through quite normally, despite the fact that it was quite hard to go out at night in specific neighbors, and it still is, depending where you go. And the intervention of these soldiers were basically blocking every road and every mean of communication at the time, because mobile phones just started to appear.
Can I ask
Signed,
a
of course.
clarification question? So we're talking about 1993 in Sicilia,
Yes.
and when you're talking about those bombing and killing that I understand the mafia was initiating or conducting,
Yes.
who did they target? What was the aim of this
Of course.
violence?
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's history, but just
well,
to give the
they
quick
were
context.
targeting at the very beginning. It started just between people that were in the same organization, but then it evolved towards targeting the judges and the people that were investigating the trial, lawyers, members of police forces, police heads, famous people that were talking about mafia. And during this period we have many bombings all around Italy, or very famous people being kidnapped and then killed, because it was a strategy of creating tension, somehow try to take, and it was quite common still in that period, even if it was the end of it, try to have a negotiation with the government in order to well, somehow let them be accepted, if you allow me to say so. But it was, it is also connected to the fact that in order to have this trial, the whole criminal code system and procedural code system had to be changed to allow, well, larger periods of investigations and more power to the police. And mafia did not like it, so they wanted to change. They asked for basically go back to the previous law. And there is actually quite a strong, there are quite famous court cases in the European Court of Justice on how this was justified at that time. I was saying that all this work basically pushed the organization to be submerged and become extremely silent again. But what we know about the Sicilian Mafia, and I said Sicilian Mafia, not Cosa Nostra, for a reason. Cosa Nostra is the term that the American police started adopting to define the Sicilian Mafia in the US, but in Italy we only have Mafia as Sicilian Mafia, because then you have other organizations like Camorra, 'Ndrangheta, Schita, among others. And the structure, I mean, I use a triangle, but it could be, it's a vertical structure where at the bottom you have the people that work on the roads or that do the dirty job. Then I would like to say head of family, but it's not always a strict family relation. Sometimes it's just the person who has control over lower heads, and this is sometimes the person that you meet more often in the neighborhood, that knows who you are and what you do, and we have a very first contact in the organization. And he reports to the Capomandamento, who basically has the control of a big neighborhood. And it is discussed, but there are about 16 just in my hometown, and about 18 in the whole district of Palermo. And they all meet in a district commission where they decide who, for example, has to pay money to protect or who has to be protected, or for example, they decide in which area there would be more robberies, or robberies would be allowed by another gang. But also, and it's quite interesting, they started renting out their neighborhoods, and I find it quite interesting. So, for example, if the Chinese mafia that never had an interest in Sicily wants to operate, they sort out a sort of lease contract for that. Or recently we had a case with the Nigerian mafia where they were allowed to operate within a specific area. And on top of that, you have about 8 commissions in the island, and on top of that you have the cupola, which is basically the big highest institution in the organization that decides the killings and decides the politics of the organization. Many members denied the very existence of this institution, but it actually exists, and because of its composition, you have multiple mafia wars along the years, and I was involved in one of these trials that started when I was a law student, and then I graduated. During my pupillage, my training, I was dragged there to defend one of these members.
I've got a question.
Yeah, sorry.
So, so you're saying that the Cupola is the organization that decides on killing and all that. Does that mean that the lower ranks cannot decide on killing without the approval?
Yeah, they have no power at all from this point of view. Usually, who gets killed, it goes like in the cupola. It's a decision made by the cupola. It has been made basically at an unanimous level. There are records of that from past investigation that this is how it happens. Usually, these are the people that, for example, come to your shop trying to threaten you, asking for money every 3, 6 months, every month, or they steal your motorcycle. But then, as a single person, you give the money either to them or to this person. Or if you get your motorcycle stolen, instead of going to the police, you just ask him where it is and give money back. And it's actually sometimes more efficient than the police itself. And then you go the level up, and this is basically the Comandamento deals with the basically executive side, so which businesses are going to be extorted. And for example, some years ago in 2008, they decided that all the businesses that were part of an organization that expressly refuses to buy products from other businesses that allow extortion. They said to just leave them be. Yeah, sorry.
Just earlier you were saying that the initial informant that came forward because his family was being killed off. So that would have been a couple decision. Their family had done something so bad that the couple had.
Thank you for the question. It's actually there's no certainty about that because what he said in the trial is that the cupola authorized it, but it was actually at a cupola level, and this decision was taken without him. So it was kind of, if you want, there was an administrative issue from that point because they did a sort of
You had
ultra
conflict of
events.
interest.
Exactly. So when they start, and they said this is not how the organization operates, and possibly this is how it was quite successful for over 100 years and quite secret because he says, I'm not saying this, but he used to say during the process that being a mafioso was the best thing in the world because it really gave you a code of honor, it made you a honorable man, and you had to apply this basically sort of chivalry code of honor where basically you helped grannies crossing the roads, but then you were allowed to extort money from businesses and deal with drugs in the
Can I ask on the
Sure.
background? So at that time, I don't know if we want to go fast forward today. What are the revenue sources of the Sicilian mafia? Why do you think it has such a myth around it? And why would Nigerian and Chinese mafia have to do with Sicilia? I mean, as far as I know, Sicilia is not a very rich country.
It's not.
So what are they doing there?
And it's because of immigration. So Sicily is as geographically is right above north of Africa, and it receives a big stream of migrants, but also drugs from that areas, and this is where they had an interest, and it was not always drugs. In one of these theories, the one about the fraction of the land, says that mafia originated because the big landlords and the big we are going back to the basically 18th century where you had a sort of feudal system, and these rich people could not take control of the people that were working the land, so they needed someone that was there ready to apply pressure on the people that were working there. And I actually believe this could be true because I have some friends and colleagues that come from these sort of rich families, and it is interesting to see that each big landlord had a sort of mafia they had a sort of help from mafia, someone that was always there in the land making sure that nothing would be stolen, or people who show up for work, and this tradition continued over the years, but then there was the expansion with the drugs and then in the 90s when they tried to put political pressure in order to change the Italian legal system. So I guess this is the moment when it becomes more, the conflict between the government and Italy becomes more exacerbated. The organization has, however, some characteristics that other organizations do not have. There's no direct harm, for example. You cannot just be hired, like, for example, in Mexican cartels. You need to know someone that thinks you are honorable enough to be part of the organization. And it's quite, this is quite important because after a ritual you become an honorable member, and it's a status you get for life. While with other organizations in Italy and around Europe, you can live under specific conditions. And this brings you to another very important legal point of view, and is you want that you have a status contract, so you are forced to respect a specific code of ethics, and we never knew about this code of ethics because even during the very first trial, no one was talking about that. We had to wait 2016 to know that there are a sort of 10 rules to be the perfect mafioso, and they are basically about the man and the organization. Only men can be actually part of the organization. The organization comes before anything, and for example, they do if anyone in your family is a policeman or a member of government, you're not supposed to become a mafioso, but then there are exceptions.
One more question.
Yes, of course.
So, in those years when the mafia was probably in the height of its power and all the bombing and all that, was the public with the mafia, against the mafia? Was the public even impacted by those bombing and killing?
Yes, and I don't have it in this presentation, but when I was about 4 or 5 years old, in the newspaper there were letters of people, citizens, complaining about the traffic, which might sound stupid, but that was what was affecting most of the people. It was impossible to go from one side of the town to the other because there were checkpoints basically at every other road, and people, at least in the most popular neighborhoods, supported the mafia, and it's still today has quite a stronger support. And I like to say so because your first point of contact for any problem is the local boss in your neighborhood. As I said, if you get your motorcycle stolen, that's the person you ask, because for 500 euros you get your motorcycle back as long as you do it within 72 hours, or twice. You don't find all the parts. Or for example, another system that is quite famous is called Trojan horse has for cyber crimes, where basically they still use some things. For example, recently when I was involved in this trial, my dad had his car seats stolen, and the day after, one of these people just approached my dad asking for 500 euros to get the car seats back, or creating damage, basically creating a problem and then offering the solution, which is quite interesting from this point of view. And the problem you have with mafia arrests is that once one of these members are arrested, they do not really reveal their role, duties within the organization, and investigations are very lengthy, expensive, and complicated. It is really hard to track them down. One of the most important members of our organization managed to hide for 44 years, basically the same place, in the same town where he was living, and there are only 2,000 people in that village, and you think it's impossible. But it was very easy for them because communications and the network was operating in a way that in order to get in a message, 16 people had to be involved and at different times. So it took just for this person, the way it tracked it down, it was a pair of clean pants that was ironed by his wife, and it took him 3 months to receive this pair of clean pants, and 16 people involved over different locations just to confuse the investigators. And one thing that always confused me, so when you get arrested in these mafia operations, you usually have at that point you have 48 hours in order for the confirmation of the arrest. And when they get arrested, then they usually are released, but in mafia trials they're just put in a prison waiting for the trial. And one of the things that shocks me is that they always smile when they're photographed, and this is when they're just being arrested, so within the very first 48 hours, and they always wonder what they're laughing about. But it's because most of the members of the family actually show up to the police station to check if that person has been arrested for real or not. So basically you get all your family there and you just wait. And then they also meet with the lawyer 1 hour, 2 hours before being released, and this is where basically they give you thousands and thousands of pages of 8-9 months of investigations and ask you in 2 hours basically to find a fault in it or find out what you can do about it. Most of the time the answer is, I can do nothing now, let's just see how it comes with trial. Because the prosecutor has to judge at that moment the likelihood of conviction, and when you have months and months of investigations, wiretaps, and pictures with other members that are alleged to be part of the investigation, it's really hard to make a point that, well, either it did not happen or that it is not relevant. But then it's much easier at the moment of the trial. And
why did the family go to the police station to check that they were really arrested? Why did they not believe that they were arrested?
Because they could have been killed, but it was in the 40s and during fascism actually that was the strategy of Mussolini. He basically tried to solve the mafia problem by just deporting about 10,000 Sicilians to other places, but most of them also never survived. So I guess, and that's one thing that I actually experienced in Mexico as well, or yes, that members of the organization visit the police station to just make sure family member is okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
And when you say family, do you mean their family like wife and children, or do you mean their family as in their family?
I wasn't clear with that. I mean actually both. So wife and also the other members. I used to say family because I say family because that's how they define themselves. But
And Roberto, you've been taken into detention and you're their lawyer.
yes,
So you probably met with them at those times.
yes.
And you going through the record and you see that they have some serious crimes that they've committed, like they may have killed someone or that's, I mean,
At the very least, sometimes.
right, and then, so, does that affect you, or what do you do, because you need to defend those people?
Well, I need to defend these people if I'm asked, and this is quite a very important detail. So first of all, I need to be well vested or somehow asked directly to defend themselves. There's a system, and I got a mafia trial once in this way, and was basically you unlock a system and you get, as a lawyer, to defend anything that comes to you, and well, you get paid eventually after 8 months, but the way it works, you arrive to the basically police station because you're called by either them or the police. You show up, you sit, you have basically 20 minutes to see the documents, you talk to the person that has been arrested and asking, well, how are you doing, what are we doing about it, because most of the time they already know and they're more prepared than you on, well, they are, because they know what it is about, and they can, it's quite useful because they can point you out directly where you have to look, and this is quite important because in these kind of investigations they have been following every minute of the life of these people for maybe the last 2 years and a half or more, and sometimes it is down to 2-3 episodes that really are contested in the accusation, but then covered with 2 years of their life. So that it's much easier to talk to them and then go look straight after. And once they're put in prison, the prosecutor is basically doing the same job I'm doing, but for everyone else. So in that occasion, there were 176 people that were arrested or tried to arrest because they did not manage to arrest everyone, and they only managed to bring to trial, well, let's say only, but they managed to bring to trial 99 people, which means that some escaped from being arrested, and for others there was not enough evidence. And in Italy, but we still have, we give the benefit of the doubt, so you are innocent until proved guilty. I actually started with this trial, and I had the great idea to use it as for my PhD thesis in actually economics, not law. I used this one also for a reason, not just because I did letter writing, but it was also the biggest police operation in Sicily after the Maxi Processo, that involved every mafia family in the west of Sicily, and I extracted just from the arrest warrant that was, well, from ground to here, about 22 variables for each person that was involved, but then by crossing these variables and the features of every person that was involved in the investigation, I managed to get 96 features of each character, and these were basically, I would like to say, soft features. So for example, the building where they were living, the area where they were operating, and it allowed me to obtain so much more information about each person and the organization as a whole, and it allowed me basically to build a very first network of the organization, which, as it is, when you look at it, it doesn't really tell you much. And but what it is basically who was in contact with whom during basically these 2 years in the whole mafia, in the whole organization. But just when you look at it, and I do not expect you to be experts in social network analysis, but you can see that there are some areas that look more dense. And well, this is so because there are some people, I believe, that really drive the organization, while others are just limited contacts. So once I built the structure, I wanted to check who this person really were, and I was surprised that they were not the bosses of the organization, but they were actually people in a much lower level. And the big mafia bosses actually had one or two connections within the organization, which is quite interesting. Everyone knew who these people were, but they could not define. They did not have such a relevant position within the organization. Of course, they were good decisions, but then all the rest seemed done by someone else, and actually it is more clear here who these people and members were. And
So the yellow one is the bosses?
no, yellow ones are the more the people that were more active, that were actually running the organization, and these are people that members of the organization that are quite on a lower level, and
You can
sorry,
you can continue talking. I just
checking my notes in case
So, were the leaders in contact with these people? So were they like direct